Hey everybody, how's it going? Right now I'm at McDonald's in Upper St. Clair on Fort Koch Road. Many people in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania and Allegheny County don't realize that this location was the location of Fort Koch. That's why the road is called Fort Koch Road. Many Indians probably didn't know that because you're not history nerds like me. But during the Whiskey Rebellion in 1794, on July 16th, 1794, the Mingo Creek Association, the rebels, the Whiskey Rebels at Mingo Creek in Washington County, they went and attacked John Neville's plantation on Bower Hill, okay, Bower Hill Road. That was on July 16th. After that confrontation and that skirmish on July 16th, 1794, Oliver Miller, the house that I was at 2 days ago at the Oliver Miller homestead in South Park, Oliver Miller, the grandson of Oliver Miller, William Miller's son, was shot in the leg up at Bower Hill by John Neville. So the Whiskey Rebels then retreated from Bower Hill, which is in the vicinity of St. Clair Hospital. They traveled all the way basically from St. Clair Hospital, essentially, that vicinity, all the way to here to Fort Koch in Upper St. Clair. Now, at the time, this was not known as Upper St. Clair, the best of my knowledge. This probably was claimed by Washington County, or probably claimed as, referred to as Peters Township. So, according to the Whiskey Rebellion book by Brady Kreitzer, it says here, there is nothing left of Fort Koch, but a visit to its location still provides some value to those seeking it out. Today, McDonald's rests upon its remains and the road is aptly named Fort Koch Road near Pittsburgh's South Hills Village, right up there, right up the street. So when the Whiskey Rebels retreated from Bower Hill to Fort Koch, McDonald's, this location, they were coming together to convene to plan a revenge attack against John Neville in Bower Hill. This location was a fallback position for the settlers and the militia to convene against the Indians or the Native Americans during the Native American Wars in the decades before the American Revolution and even into the American Revolution and after. The militias, local militias, would convene here to discuss and to defend themselves against local Indian tribes. So when they convened here after the Battle of Bower Hill, they were trying to plan a attack or revenge attack against John Neville, like I already said. That attack would then follow the next day on July 17th, 1794. But there was one dissenter in the area. That was Reverend John Clark, pastor of the Bethel Church in Bethel Park, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, right up the street. He came down and tried to negotiate and prevent any other further violence with the Mingo Creek Association and the Whiskey Rebels. And we will go up the street later and we will then tell yins what happened to Reverend John Clark up the street. So right now, I'm here at the Bethel Presbyterian Church in Bethel Park, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. I'm with Reverend John Clark, born 1718, died 1797, the first pastor of the Bethel and Lebanon Presbyterian churches from 1783, the end of the American Revolution, to 1794, the year of the Whiskey Rebellion's explosion, essentially. It says, here lies the body of the Reverend John Clark, who departed this life July the 13th, Anno Domini, 1797, in the 79th year of his age. In yonder church I spent my breath, and now lie slumbering here in death. These lips shall rise and then declare amen to the truths they published here. Okay? During the whiskey insurrection, John Clark met with the angry farmers at Fort Koch on July 17, 1794, in an effort to prevent an attack at Bower Hill on the home of General John Neville, federal tax collector. Okay, that basically sums it up. But giving a little bit of analysis and a summary of it, Reverend John Clark was a pastor of Bethel and Lebanon Presbyterian churches and studied under Reverend John McMillan. Now, if you know, John McMillan Church is also in Bethel Park. See, many of the settlers here in the Western Territories during the French Indian War, even prior, the Ulster Scots, like my mother's ancestors, basically Scotsmen who moved to Northern Ireland and then came from Northern Ireland to the colonies, they were Presbyterians. The Presbyterians were very discriminated against by the English crown, by the English government. So they moved to the colonies, and Reverend John Clark was a Presbyterian, more than likely under Ulster Scot lineage, basically Scottish Presbyterian. He went down and tried to stop the Whiskey Rebels, the Mingo Creek Association, from another attack 131 years ago today, July 17th, 1794, because he, as a Christian, as a reverend, he believed in thou shalt not kill in one of the 10 commandments. He believed that conducting violence against a federal tax collector not only was illegal, not only was insurrection, but it was also an anti-Christian thing. To kill somebody, to just desecrate their property, to attack their home and their family. So when he went down there, he was basically shooed off by the Whiskey Rebels and basically told, get out of here, blah, 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 because the Whiskey Rebels were so fired up and so motivated with their passions against John Neville and the federal government in general. So this right here is Reverend John Clark, buried here at Bethel Presbyterian Church graveyard.